Welcome to a brand new Kerbal Space Program video. Today, we're going to be doing something special as we are going to be using this recreation of the Saturn V to recreate Apollo 11. See you on the launch pad. Here is our beautiful Saturn V recreation. I've constructed it myself, trying to be as faithful as possible. The Kerbal Space Program did lend a lot of difficulties. In our pilot seat is Jebediah Kerman, our engineer is Bill, and our scientist is Bob. They are currently within the command pod waiting for launch. Launch commencing.
12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
We have liftoffs. So it's going to be several minutes before we exit the atmosphere. I'll keep you in touch, but enjoy this time lapse as we head up there. As our apoapsis is now above 100,000 meters, we can cruise on up without burning our fuel. Then when we get up there, we can circularize our orbits. I found the easiest way to circularize the orbit is to burn a bit to get a horizontal movement, then cut off, then warp forward a bit to make the burn even more horizontal, and then just burn until you've circularized. Once we've circularized, I can tell that our orbit is a bit wonky, so we're going to need to adjust that. Oh, would you look at that? A nice circular orbit. Now, currently it is a bit on the wonky side, so I'm going to need to plot a maneuver node that will I'll need to plot a maneuver node that will flatten it out a bit, as the MUN currently is a very flat orbit. This looks good, so I'll plot for aiming at the maneuver, and once we're aimed up, we can warp to the burn. So whenever doing maneuver nodes, you can't exhaust all of your thrust at once. So what you need to do is cut your burn time in half, and then begin your burn at that time before your node. In this case, it would be 25 seconds before node. As you can see, we've run out of fuel. But that's not that big of an issue. Our orbit's mostly flattened out. So now we continue on to the rest of the journey. I am going to lose my launch stage and release my command module. as you can see, our lander was attached to the back, meaning that we have to turn around to face it. Now, unfortunately, we knocked into it, so what we can do is set as target, and then aim at target, and then now, two crafts will face each other, and I can just throttle up, and we will get a bit of a messy dock. But a dock is a dock. We are connected now. We have to make sure this engine is off because it would fight against us if we left it on. And now we can plot our MUN maneuver node. So the MUN is just over here, but it's going to travel by the time we get to it. So what we can do is aim it roughly 45 degrees ahead of where it currently is. And then search along that, and we have an encounter. Though over here seems like a much more stable one. There we go. So now, it's going to be 18 minutes to get there, but it'll be a 3-minute and 35-second burn. That is because I have a relatively weak, but highly efficient engine on the end of this thing. So instead of warping to the next maneuver like I normally would, because I have the long time, I'm going to warp manually to an area before it, and then inch my way forward until we get to the 2-minute mark. Which we missed. Should be fine though, as long as we're roughly on target. We'll make it. Say goodbye to our launch stage. And goodbye to Kerbin. So our apoapsis, the highest point of our orbit, is steadily increasing. Our periapsis is doing so as well, but not as much, because you raise one by being at the other and burning. The goal here is to get the apoapsis into the orbit of the moon and then get caught by it. Then, once we are in its range of gravity, we will burn retrograde, cutting our speed, and hopefully enter orbit. Here comes the Moonrise. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now just fine-tuning the orbit. Burning a little bit of fuel. There we go. Oh, I can delete this maneuver. And we'll head off. Now that we've entered the Mun's gravity, we can plot a maneuver at the periapsis, and then pull retrograde to establish an orbit. There we go. Aiming at maneuver. It is a 44-second maneuver, so that means 22 seconds in, I'll start the burn. As we enter orbit, we can scope out some good landing sites, and that particularly large crater seems like a good spot, especially because we already have a base there. Might be able to land next to it. Overdid it a bit, but that's not bad. Now we should probably reduce our altitude a bit. You know what? This doesn't need a maneuver node. We don't want to go too low, but an altitude of perhaps 30,000 feet would be, and 30,000 meters will work. There we go. Now we warp over to our periapsis. Now that we're here, we can engage our engines and recircularize at this new altitude. There we go. Now that we're here, we can transfer over our pilot and our scientists into the lander and undock. Bill will stay back here, keeping the return module safe and sound, while the lander gets to plot a maneuver node to land. This looks like a good spot as any. Though there seems to be an odd glitch where it doesn't register that I have fuel. No matter. Now that the engine's activated, we approach our maneuver. There we go. Then we can start warping down. I can see our base already. Don't want to warp too far, you might crash. But here seems like as good a spot as any. Cancel out our momentum and start our descent. I'm gonna burn this way a little bit. Try to get us to land amongst the base. Of course, I need to be ready to cancel out our momentum. Looks like we're coming out. A good spot. To slowly cancel out our momentum. And land. Roughly below 10 meters a second. There we go. There's the launch pad. This is for the Kerbals to launch any rockets they like off of the Mun, which is a much more efficient and economic option. And we've landed. Now it's time for Jebediah to take the first steps on Mars. Or tumble, I should say. He seems happy about it, though. It's one small step for Kerbal, one giant leap for Kerbal kind. Let's name this site the Apollo Touchdown. Now we can take an EVA report, as well as a surface sample. Now we use our jetpack to climb back in to our lander. Oh, looks like there's a design issue in that there is an RCS thruster in the way of the ladder. No worries. Ah. Get up. This is somehow the hardest part of the mission. And there we go. Now's just getting back. I found that one of the easiest ways is to make a polar orbit. So, we are way too maneuverable. Okay, now that we have a very high apoapsis. Oh, yeah, I have to wait for us to get out of the gravity. This time we get a nice view of the Mun. In fact, I believe, yes, there are windows inside of the cockpit. There we go. Sorry. Once we reach apoapsis, we can simply circularize. And then set the command module as our target. It looks like we already got a pretty close match. Which way are we going? Are we going up or down? We are going down. Okay. So now all we have to do is rotate our polar orbit to have these orange markers match up. Already, we are only 14 kilometers apart. 13. 13 seems to be the best in that. 11. Yes, there. And then here, I can get it to 5. That's pretty great. Okay, so now all we have to do is warp over to our maneuver node. And burn. There we go. 3.9 kilometers apart. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, so now we make it target retrograde. This will cancel out our speed in respect to the command module, and we warp on over. Burning here is gonna make our orbit equal with the command modules. And then once we are at 0 meters a second in relation with the command module, that means that we are at a very, very close proximity And now, the next close moment here, so I will work here. Very up. Now we can engage the docking mode. Hopefully, we have enough RCS fuel. That we can line up our direction with our target. Almost. Looks like we've got it. I'll warp to where we are far closer. There we go. Now we can set as target, aim, and same docking process as before. Though this time, we're out of fuel. But that's not a problem because we have RCS fuel. We don't need major maneuvers anymore. 1 meter a second is a pretty good approaching speed. And connected. Now all we have to do is transfer our crew back to the command module. Then we can undock with the lander module. It's no longer needed. And plot our way home. Wait a minute. 115 is good. Aim. Burn time isn't showing up, so I'm just going to warp to the node and begin burning. It looks like it's only 288 meters a second, so this should be relatively quick. Especially since now that we no longer need any more RCS for maneuvering. We can add that RCS into thrusters, providing additional boost. Get rid of the maneuver node. Let's see, what is our periapsis? 168, not bad. Now we just warp on over. The hard part's almost over, though the scariest part's about to begin. Once we get to periapsis, we want to turn it into our apoapsis, making this the highest point by lowering our actual apoapsis by just burning off the rest of our fuel. Once our liquid fuel is gone, our main center thruster will stop burning, but our monopropellant tanks are still full, so the RCS thrusters keep going. Already it looks like a very quick reduction of the apoapsis. And at this point, if you burn off the rest of your fuel, the better. Perhaps even we can then negate all of our momentum, and then just slowly do a controlled landing. If not, then we can simply ditch our thrusters and we have heat shielding. Looks like we're gonna cut out soon. Monopropellant, not really, but the other one. We're out of liquid fuel, so now we're just burning monopropellant. So we're not going to be able to cancel all of our momentum, but that's fine. That's what the heat shields are for. And we're out of monopropellant. Now we're going to ditch our thrusters. Continue aiming retrograde. And just wait for the atmosphere to hit us. It's always the most terrifying part, though I've tested this command module the most, and it should be perfectly safe. Entering atmosphere. Heat shield starting to go. Our thrusters are burning up back there. Seems like they're falling a bit slower than us. I'd be surprised if they survive. Now we're in thicker atmosphere. Our drogue chutes can open, slowing us down, and then our main chutes can open. Though of course they won't take effect until lower altitudes. It looks like our boosters are surviving. It's surprising. Drogue chutes are out. Now we're slow enough for the main chutes. And there go the main chutes. Now we just begin our gentle descent down to the ocean. How much ablative? Not bad, not bad. Though it looks like some part of the engine survived. It's gonna get destroyed by the ocean though. Hydromere's left to go. Yep. And touchdown. Did not like that. Shouldn't have glitch welded so many parts together. But oh well. Well, that's it. Jeb, Bill, and Bob have successfully made it back from the moon. And I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Kerbal Space Program.